conversation with attitude, Super Duper Morning Show. We got some guests joining us in the building. We have 2 MPs. That's right. Actually, 3. Okay, there we go. Just surprised me. Yeah, he is. But from the National Alliance faction, got to say good morning to MP Egbert Doran. Good morning.
Good morning, Suppa. Good morning, colleague. And a special good morning to the people of St.Maarten that are tuned in here and abroad.
All right. We also have MP Darryl York joining us this morning.
Good morning, Suppa, and good morning to our radio listeners.
All right. And also, I just saw MP Ardwell Irion. He's joining us this morning.
Coming in now.
Yeah, he's coming in right now. And come on in. There he is. Just grab this mic here. And good morning, MP. How you doing?
Good morning, Super. Good morning, radio listeners.
Yeah, I know you're not 100%, but yeah, you're here still. Mm-hmm. Yeah, man. So good to have the 3 of you here, I should say. I know last week was the budget debate, which was pretty much 5 days of, debating the budget, questioning here and there, the back and forth and whatnot. At the end of the day, it was unanimously approved, accepted. And now we're moving forward. But also during the budget debate, there were, different motions, there were amendments and different requests as well throughout the debate. And I guess that's what you guys are here today to talk about and discuss. Mm-hmm. Now, we don't have 5 days. We just have about 15, 20 minutes. So let's see how we could crunch all of that in within that short time span. So talk to us about the budget debate in a nutshell. How do you guys think it went?
Finance man.
Overall, I think that the budget debate itself as MPs, I think that we showed a lot of political maturity. Mm-hmm. I think that we showed that we did our due diligence, we did our research, and we didn't just come with complaints, we came with solutions. Mm-hmm. A lot of solutions were not taken up, but also the solutions that we brought forward in the 2024 amendment were also not taken up. And a lot of information came to light. Mm-hmm. For example, even last night I heard some people talking about it again on another radio station about the $700,000, for example, for Soul Beach.
Right.
Some persons in the medical field contacted me and said, "Hey, we haven't been paid as yet through SZV. Mm-hmm. How did you find $700,000 for Soul Beach because of unused funds when we've been asking to be paid for the last 6 months?" Mm-hmm. So now they feel that the government has just been lying to them because if you could find funds, that means you had the money all the time to pay. Right. Somebody else contacted me and said, "Hey, but I thought they said they had the money to fix the roads or the potholes after the rain." Mm-hmm. And the government talked about not having funds. So you're sending very mixed signals to the public, especially when you came out with your campaign on the country being bankrupt. So even this morning I was thinking about it. I was saying, hey, as members of parliament, we now have to hold the government accountable. Every 3 months, we're going to have to ask them, hey,
how much money
you have, and do you have unused funds that you haven't used in the ministry so that we can put towards another area so that when we come with budget amendments, because we are coming with a budget amendment in 2024, because that's what they use the money for, and say, hey, we want to take the money from these different ministries and put towards over here. I'm pretty sure they would have said no, mm-hmm. right? So I think it's on us now to hold them even more accountable, and I think that we have a very strong parliament to do that.
Right. But how does it work? Because the Minister of TIAT said, it was from unused funds from 2024 that they use for the Soul Beach show that's coming up.
Yes.
But how does that work? Is that only unused funds from the Ministry of TIAT, or is that unused funds in general?
No, she said she had unused funds from the Ministry of Finance, which I find very surprising, and the Ministry of TIAT. She took from the Aviation Department, the Statistics Department, and another department in finance, and I guess also STB. But again, that would mean that these departments were not executing their task for 6 months. To have $700,000 of unused funds, that means what were these departments doing?
Right.
And that also falls back on the vision and also the leadership of the ministry. Because if you have departments not executing their task and you're the leader, then something's still wrong.
Right. Yeah. Darryl or Egbert, do you guys have anything to chime in on that one?
I mean, it's pretty clear what my colleague is saying. We brought certain points to the forefront where we saw some inconsistencies. Inconsistency number one was saying that the country was bankrupt, yet you found over $500,000 to dedicate towards an event. And I just want to be clear. I don't think any of us here are anti the Soul Beach event. That is just to be clear. However, as the MP mentioned, you have medical professionals like the GPs and all of them that aren't being paid because government.
Physical therapy.
The physical therapists, and so that not being paid because government isn't paying SZV to pay them. Yet you're saying that we don't have funds. Yet you found over $500,000.
Right.
So the inconsistency is clear in the sentiments. My colleague asked a simple question: which line item did you get this budget from? Up to today, haven't received an answer because it wasn't budgeted for. Imagine moving over $500,000 of public funds, and you cannot justify to the public, nor even the parliament, where you got the funds from. And this was a question that was posed over and under in different ways, I think over 4 times by different MPs. And up to today, with the passing of the budget, it still was not clear where the money came from. And that is unheard of. And that's why I asked a pretty specific question, whereas when the advice was brought to the Council of Ministers, was it baslis ripe? Meaning, was it ready for decision making? Was it legally vetted? All those things. Up to today, you can't get a clear answer.
Yeah. Now, Ardwell, you're the former Minister of Finance. Now, I don't know how it works, but let's say, okay, that unused funds, could it have also been used, let's say, towards GB to, let's say, offset some of the expenses that they have to give some type of relief to the people of St.Maarten as well? Because $700,000 is a lot of money.
It's a lot of money.
Yeah.
So it could have been used in terms of saying, hey, we're going to lower the concession fee for GB and put it towards there. Actually, this coalition, at least 2 parties on this coalition, I know DP for sure, campaigned on, hey, let's remove the concession fee and put it towards relief for GB. So I'm very surprised that they even voted against a motion for relief. So yes, that is something that could have happened if this is what the government wanted to do. Yes.
Yeah. All right. Darryl, were there some motions that you brought forward or amendments as well during the budget debate? Like I said, it was 5 days. I didn't get to tune into all the days, but I do know that it was a pretty, like you said, it was a healthy discussion. It was a debate that I think, like you said, there was some political maturity. There was some here and there, like, oh, okay, but yeah, for the most part, I believe I think this was one of the quickest budget debates, I would say. No,
that was very long.
It was a long one. Okay.
In my opinion.
All right. Yeah, so go ahead, Darryl.
So the ideal plan was to bring I had a motion ready for scenarios revolving around succession land. I chose to wait on that to put more meat into the motion.
Right.
Even bring the law myself. What I focused on more was bringing light to things I didn't feel that was given the proper attention, such as the gambling addiction and the cannabis legislation that's pending.
Right.
Because at the end of the day, all these things has effect on whichever amendment or on the budget going towards the end of the year anyway, because the cannabis legislation is supposed to bring money to the budget, but the gambling as well, but as well it can cost as well, right? So my whole thing was to bring the correlation between the two and how ministries are not working in synergy as they should be when it comes to these topics.
Right.
You know, because on the gambling addiction side, more casinos, more addiction can cause a VSR, for example, more funds when it comes to prevention and when it comes to helping those individuals. So my main thing was bringing the correlation between the two and actually getting opinions out there. So getting what's the stance of the Prime Minister and the coalition on cannabis? What's the stance of the Prime Minister and the coalition stance on gambling addiction when it comes to casinos and lottery booths? And, you know, what was kind of disappointing is those questions were not answered. You know, they did-daddle around it. If I ask your personal opinion, you still have to go in caucus with 12 other people. That's not a personal opinion anymore, right?
Right.
So if I'm asking the government on 2 prevalent subjects that plague our society today, and also what can bring necessary funds to the coffers, what is your stance? Do you believe casinos should be closed down? Do you believe we should be getting more money from the casinos? Which was posed by his own coalition member, not by me.
Right.
I'm like, hey, if we got 23 more gambling opportunities, times more gambling opportunities than a Carousel, we should be getting 23 times more money than Carousel. That's how I looked at it,
Income,
right?
yeah.
When it comes to income, and as it pertains to the cannabis as well. So yeah, to my disappointment, those questions were not answered. I'm curious to what's going to be in the governing program, because we held a whole entire budget debate without the governing program.
Yeah, that hasn't been
executed as yet. So we're talking about the vision for St.Maarten for 2025 when we don't even know what the vision for the government is, right? So that is how majority of my questions, that's the angle I took. It was more to get an idea, since it's not on paper yet. You tell me what your vision is for the island.
Yeah.
And every time it was a touchy subject, the answer was not given.
Yeah. Now, I know there were many questions that were asked, and you guys felt that the answers weren't given. Can you still submit those questions in writing, and maybe hopefully you could get something from there?
Yeah, we can. So I submitted questions to the Prime Minister in August, and I received them 2 weeks ago.
Mm-hmm.
So
From August to
from September,
January,
actually,
September.
Yeah.
So of course we could get them right.
The man been busy, I guess.
We could get them, but I don't know when we're gonna
But
get
the
them.
question is, but when
Right.
you see things like that, you submit something in September, you get it back in January. How is Parliament expected to do their job? Right?
Exactly.
How is then MP Irion supposed to do his due diligence and pose his questions, and maybe even come up with a motion, or amendment, or
Right.
even start working on a law, if he doesn't have an answer to his question? So a lot of people don't look at the ramifications of the expected, how you would say, partnership between government and Parliament.
Yeah.
Government has all the answers. Parliament has all the questions. If we don't get answers to our questions, we can't do our job.
Yeah.
It's real simple. And then if we don't get the questions in writing, the answers in writing, and we're forced to ask you those questions on the floor of Parliament, and you end up looking a type of way when we ask those questions,
Yeah.
we end up getting the blowback because, what you had to ask that question for? And we didn't get our answer in writing.
Yeah.
So there are a lot of things that happens behind the scenes that the everyday person is not aware of. You know? They just see what unfolds on the floor of Parliament.
Now, we understand, I guess, what a motion is. It's more like a request from Parliament towards government, and it's up
It's
to
a wish.
It's a wish, and
Independent.
it's up to government basically to take it up and execute it. But what exactly? So we understand what's a motion. So it's presented, it's voted upon, it passes, but then it doesn't necessarily mean it's going to happen. That's up to the government and
Unless it's a motion of confidence.
That's unless it's one of those. But we also heard the word amendment. What does amendment mean when it comes to especially the budget meetings?
So an amendment so the budget itself is a law. It's probably the most important law for the government to be able to execute. So basically, when you make a budget amendment, you basically make an amendment to the law.
Okay.
Which means that, hey, the government cannot, let's say if I move funds from one area to another area, the government cannot just go back on the legal terms and say, I'm going to transfer this money back without coming back to Parliament.
Okay.
All right, so you can't just go move around money how you want, because it's now enshrined in law.
Okay. So then how does that play now when it comes to the Ministry of TIAT when they move the funds?
That's what I was just going to say. You can't move.
When they
That's
move
a
those
very good
funds
question, Suppa.
without coming to
So
Parliament.
that's why I asked the minister, is it a collaboration between the Ministry of Finance and the Ministry of TIAT? So if the Ministry of Finance put money in also to the project,
Okay.
then it'll be a collaboration. But he didn't get a clear answer either. Right? So because you don't get clear answers, I can't even answer you now.
Yeah.
But yes, a budget amendment is actually a change in the law itself, basically. Saying, hey, I want to put funds from here to here so you are able to execute these tasks.
Yeah.
When it comes to motions, I discussed with my colleagues here that we had a few motions, even motions brought forward by the coalition. And I think you're going to see for the first time in St.Maarten history, maybe, that we're going to hold every one of them accountable for their motions.
Yeah.
If you bring a motion, it's not going to be, hey, thank you. No. Now we're going to make sure that your ministers execute your motion.
Yeah.
So by the next budget debate, we'll have enough updates for the public to say, hey, you brought this motion forward. That's your minister, right? What have you done during those 6 months?
Yeah. So the motions that were passed, I know one of them was the drag strip. That was one.
Yes.
What was the others? I think it was 6 motions in total that were
one
passed.
about CFT.
One about the hair.
One about the hair discrimination. I think the other one was about legislative lawyers.
Right. That was another one. Yeah.
Yeah, I can't
And
remember.
the one for referendum.
And the one
And
for
the
the
one for
referendum.
referendum, yeah.
Well, that was a sort of a gridlock, a tie.
Yeah.
Tie.
So that was
That's-
also that was the tie.
Yeah. That was the
Basically,
highlight of the budget.
it's supposed to come back to Parliament, voted again. If
based
it's
on the
another,
next public meeting.
next
yeah.
public
yeah, and then if it's a tie again, what happens?
Then it would be rejected.
Rejected.
Yes,
Okay.
if it's a tie again.
So let's talk about this referendum. Again, that was also, besides the cannabis and everything, that was also a hot topic during the debate. So what happened? Because they're saying that there's a committee within Parliament that handles the referendum, and they're the ones that should be the ones looking into this. Yeah.
Suppa, one of the things that I found quite disturbing, even, and it's not just because my colleague brought it forward, right? The motion is very clear. The motion is saying that for the government to prepare for a consultative referendum with the people so that we can get the pulse of the people and based on their stance. some of the excuses used from some majority of my colleagues then is that yes, based on Article 92 of the Constitution, it has to start from Parliament, and we are passing the buck over to government. A motion is an action of Parliament. It's the feeling of the majority or the minority of Parliament. So that is where it's starting, where we are saying now, hey, listen here, government, please put provisions in place, financial provisions, to prepare for it in this year and also for up until 2027. So for the life of me, I cannot understand how some people could have a problem with putting the card back in the hand of the people so that they can say the direction that they want to go. And some of them tie it directly. The motion mean independence. It does not mean independence.
Right.
It means for us to go back to the people, find out where they stand, what their position is. Because Suppa, what we've seen over the last couple of years, a lot of people scream out self-determination, democratic deficit, it's unfair, decolonization. They even this was even started, the committee, I would even say, was spearheaded by the
now coalition,
Yeah, and I could remember back then, the current chair criticized current minister now back then, because it was on opposite sides about, oh, you're doing this, you're doing all these things. And now you see like everybody gone quiet. So it's like, is it acts of convenience is the question? Because at the end of the day, Suppa, what I say from now, go back to 7 years ago, you could hold me accountable to it. Now, I can say 7 years ago, maybe I didn't have all the information, and I'm not ashamed to say, hey, listen here, maybe I would do this a bit differently. But you cannot switch your whole position within 18 months just because you're in a different seat. And that is quite concerning. And I think the public is now sifting through what is who's credible and who's not credible.
Yeah. Who determines what the options would be if this referendum does come through? Because I remember
that very same committee that was referred to. You know, Suppa, at the end of the day, we're working on public funds, right? So we're being paid by the people, right? So we have these committees, we have these meetings about decolonization, et cetera, et cetera. Now, if, for example, a referendum were to be held, and the answer out of the referendum, the conclusion is the people don't want to become independent.
We want to remain how we are, or
exactly.
change status or whatever.
What would happen is allocation of time would be different, differently spent. So you wouldn't have to have that committee anymore.
Okay.
You wouldn't have to spend that time on all these topics. You wouldn't have to spend that time on all these meetings. You can spend it on other things. Because right now, for years, there's a talk going back and forth of what the parliament thinks the people want.
Yeah.
Right? And there's no conclusion. There's no end. Because as you can see now, this committee that's been referred to, it should come from the committee. That committee has existed over 2 years, right? What has come out of that committee to date, right? So it's more of putting a timeline, like, hey, this is by this time, we're going to get a conclusion, and then that committee needs to make plausible actions, right? And so it's not us telling the committee what to do, it's the people giving the committee a pulse of what they want. And the committee could take that, and in the motion, it referred to the very same committee handling certain actions. So it's not, the motion was not taking any power out of the committee, any actions out of the committee. It was actually putting the committee on notice, like, hey, they're going to come point in time something need to come out of here.
Yeah.
And this is a tool that we're giving you, the pulse of the people, for you to take it and move on with it.
Yeah.
So I don't understand where the hesitation came from, because if you're already working on it, this is only an extra tool being granted to you to do the job. Because then at the end of the day, nobody can come back afterwards and say, oh, we didn't want it. No, you had a referendum.
Yeah.
So what are we discussing in these meetings without a referendum?
Right. So let's say the pulse of the people is, say, let's go towards independence. We want to start working towards independence. Okay, so that's done. That's going to be one of the options. Do we also have to now consult with the French side as well? Because we will have to, right?
You have to make a plan.
Yeah.
I'll say in the motion, Suppa, but in the motion it stipulates regional partners, international experts. It says everything. So you can't look.
It was not an independence motion.
Right.
We had a
No, I understand. Right.
We had a referendum in 2000, right? We got our status 10 years later.
Yeah.
Is it something that happens in a year? Right? So we will have 2 years for referendum to prepare for referendum, and then maybe we have another 10 years to prepare for whatever the option is, unless the option is remain as is. In addition to that, we had, when the parliament wants, all right, after the hurricane, we had a committee to choose the integrity chamber, right? Because the Dutch brought the conditions, right? And the parliament decided, I want this money, so we're going to accept all these conditions.
Yeah.
All right? So to say, oh, we have to do this committee, we got to do this. No, the persons are saying this, they don't really want a referendum. They like the current status quo.
You guys want the AC back on? I know some of
Yeah.
Get the hell hot. All right.
There's a discussion. It's a discussion.
Yeah. So I know we don't have much time. So what I wanted to do, I wanted to take a different approach. So I want to take all the ministries, the 7 ministries, and I want you guys in a nutshell just break down, okay, what do you expect from these ministries, especially after the budget debate. So let's start with the Ministry of Finance. So all of you could just break down quickly
Or maybe we each take a couple.
Yeah. Oh, sure. Yeah. So Ministry of Finance. Let's start with that one.
I'll do finance and education. For finance, I would hope that we continue the legislation that we brought forward already. So we have legislation in Parliament already, the banking law. We have the legislation in regarding, because I hear they meant to talk about it, but we were the ones that worked on it, the inheritance tax. And we also have revenue generating taxes. In addition to that, lowering of wage tax. I expect to see taxes being lowered in the next year. When it comes to education, also we put money in the budget already since last year. So we have money. We have a couple $1 billion on the budget on capex for the Prince William Alexander School, right, for special needs. So I expect the special needs school a tenant to go out soon. I expect to see more sports facilities being developed. We left a partnership between the medical center, as if you believe they were supposed to do the tennis court and in the pool. So it's our job not to hold them accountable to make sure that gets done. And for education, we came out of COVID, and we saw the impact of that around the world.
Right.
What I expect to see now is more support for teachers, increasing teachers' salary. Things, again, that we left there to execute. That's what I expect to see for
education and finance. All right. Darryl, I know your expertise lies within Vromi, but also you have someone next to you who I will also say the same. But yeah, pick any ministries that you would like to see focused on and what you expect.
Well, I'll leave Romy up to MP Doran. As it pertains to VSA, I would like to see VSA take a more active approach in the cannabis legislation, because right now you're hearing more of it from the Ministry of TEAT than the Ministry of VSA.
Right.
As well, more certified basketball officers, because one could say we don't have enough when it comes to vector control. People going out and you don't see the little machine going around spraying around no more.
No,
when it comes
right.
to the insecticides and those type of things. So when it comes to that, also with your basketball, you can also start fining. So when it comes to sewage and those type of things, then you'll actually have people on the road finding those that are, trying to get our sewage water off the road. Because right now that's a situation where no one knows who to turn to, where to turn to, and VSI simply does not have the people. They have the mandate, but they don't have the people to execute the mandate. Right. And also, as it pertains to the cannabis legislation, more interministerial thing between VSI and education, where those societal issues are attacked prior to the cannabis legislation being executed, right? So if you still have drugs in the school, children going to school high, more access to firearms and those type of things, how can we then now introduce legal marijuana when we don't have those societal issues on the control as yet? So those are the type of things I would like to see. Also, things done from the side of TEAT, basically upholding the promise made to do something about the gambling addiction, and when it comes to the casinos and the lottery booths. And I would like to see more funds and more creative ways to generate funds off of the excessive amount of lottery booths on the island. So those would be the things I'm looking forward to.
All right. And MP Doran?
So how much ministries we have left back? Three?
Justice,
Vromi.
Justice, Vromi.
And Azet.
Yeah.
I'll start with General Affairs. General Affairs is a ministry that is, we will call it, not really an action ministry, so to speak, but it does play an important role in the putting together of the government, so to speak, and making sure that all the stars align. One of my main concerns and one of what I would like to see more from the Minister of General Affairs is more accountability towards the NRPB. They came in a time where St.Maarten was in a crisis mode, but I do believe that the institution has become more of a sort of a separate government, and I would like to see that. Even during our tenure, I've always voiced my concerns on that. So I would like to see it brought back closer to the people, so to speak. Some different things that I expressed my concerns during the budget debate, so I wouldn't bring that up here. But I do believe that they need to get closer to the people, because at the end of the day, it's a ZBO, zelfbestuurorgaan, but it functions based on the mandate of the instruction, and so to speak, of the COM via the Prime Minister. So that I would like to see brought closer to the people, more updates on the projects as to the development, because let's say, for instance, the building permit for Marie-Laurent School, the demolition permit for the library, those things were signed long time ago.
Yeah.
I think I signed a building permit for Marie-Laurent in 2021 or late 21 or early 22.
The biddings already went out. Everything was accepted,
Recently.
yeah.
So the things are happening on a sort of a snail's pace, and I think that if you have regular contact with the general public, that will definitely put at ease what is going on. I think almost 8 years now we're going that the Marie-Laurent School has been inaccessible. So I would like to see that happen in AZ. In the Ministry of Justice, I know that that is one of the most challenging ministries that exist. I sat there. I know their main issues are human resources. During our tenure, I would say 70% of the work was done. So the function books and all those things are coming to fruition now. Persons are getting on track. So I can say that I am pleased with that trajectory. I know the minister just came in, and as I mentioned, that is the only minister that would get a sort of a honeymoon period from me, because every other minister either sat in an executive position or a legislative position before. So therefore, it's no time to get familiar with it. You just need to hit the ground running, especially with current and active things. So I'll hold off on justice for now. I look forward to see what the presentation is from the minister in the next couple of months. I do, however, I've urged, and it was even via the last Minister of Justice, the gun amnesty program. I asked about it on several occasions, several platforms, and I feel that even in most recently when I asked the minister, she mentioned that they will have a driehoek, so that's with the OM and the chief of police. And I told the minister, I mean, I understand the driehoek, but you need to make a decision now as minister. You can hold a gun amnesty program even if off the bat, because it has happened over and over in the past. It's nothing new. So we now need to get creative. I respect process, I respect procedures, but bold times calls for bold intervention. So I really hope that the minister can get to work on that part, because we've seen the gun violence increase on the island. We've seen the situation with all different things. So I hope that can be paid attention to. Right. And last but not least, Vromi. Before I start on Vromi.
Also, one thing on justice, though.
Yeah.
Have the money for police budgeted 2025 and 2026. Pay the police for sure. Yes.
When it comes to Vromi, I would like to say, first and foremost, on behalf of the community of Sugar Garden, we thank you for the road repairs. It's been long awaited. I had it designated before I left, but you do know that a minister can change the priority. I'm glad that wasn't done, because I know that the road was in a very deplorable state. Also, they did the intersection by Bishop Hill, and also leading to Defiance. So I know that the road users and the residents in that area are going to be very pleased. I hope that Arch Road is the next stop, Arch Road, Madam Estate, because that is a major challenge. I know that water is also an issue there. So we had different plans. There's no need to reinvent the wheel. If the minister can please proceed with that, that would be great. And also, one of the things that I've championed over the last couple of years, got a lot of roadblocks, is home ownership. We put together different projects with respect to the home ownership, and I hope that those are followed through on. You can think about Vineyard Heights. You can think about where the old post office was. The plan there was to do some condos, also some commercial complex underneath. So those plans are there. It's just a matter of dusting it off, adding your own flavor if you want to, because you're the minister now. But I don't believe that those things should be put on the back burner just because someone else started it, because that is the reason why this country has remained stagnant for so long. And lastly, and I have to go back to the Ministry of Finance now, because I too brought two motions actually that were rejected, but the main one that has my, the other one is very important as well, but the one that has my concern is the fact that 8 members of Parliament voted against the motion that I brought forward for the acquisition of Mullaby. The motion was pretty straightforward. The point was to urge the minister to explore all legal avenues to hold those persons that put us in this position accountable. Secondly, to allow an independent appraisal to take place so that St. Maarten would be able to purchase Muller Bay at fair market value. So not at what you call it, inflated price, or even auction value, fair market value. The answer was yes, but Muller Bay is private. The Sun Resorts is private, yes, but it wasn't private when we had to take taxpayers' money to bail them out. So I'm saying all that to say, and I even told the minister, go back in the minutes of the Council of Ministers, because you have the privilege to do that. You can see what my position was. It has always remained the same. And I think that, for my humble opinion, based on the response from the coalition as well as the minister, Muller Bay is long gone super. St. Maarten will never be able to acquire Muller Bay because I don't get the sentiment that they are actually fighting to acquire it. When you read the term sheets and the documents saying that we'll have to be able to get the money within 10 days, it's impossible. Right. It's humanly impossible, virtually impossible in every which way. And I also point out to the minister, why didn't you budget this in the capital expenditure?
10 days after, in order to match.
Yes.
Plus 5%.
Plus 5%. So, I mean, we are being set up to fail as a country, and I think it's time now, it's high time now, that we, as a public, and that's what I'll be doing, and my colleagues, we mentioned it, we'll be educating the public as to what is taking place. Because it's clear-cut that Muller Bay is already gone. For who or where or what, that is yet to be determined. But I know for a fact that St. Maarten is not in a strong negotiating position when it comes to that. And I think that we are deliberately being pushed into that not so stable position. And time will tell. I hope I'm wrong. I'll say that for the record. I sincerely hope that I'm wrong. But the voting results show that they don't want us to look for something that is there hidden under the sand.
All right, gentlemen, thank you for joining us. The MPs, MP Irion, MP York, and MP Doran here from the National Alliance faction. Just basically talking about the last budget debate that we just had and how they expect everything to move forward from an executive point of view and from a legislative point of view as well. Thank you very much, gentlemen. Before you leave, question of the day, facebook.com/laser101. If you were invited to a trivia night, what category do you think you will know the most about?
Countries.
What was that?
Oh, countries, yeah, me too. Yeah.
Countries?
Countries and sports.
Geography and
sports.
Sports.
Okay.
Geography.
Yeah.
I was saying in Dutch. Geography.
And what about you, Ebi Doran?
St. Maarten politics.
St. Maarten politics.
Oh, yeah.
All right. Thank you, gentlemen, and keep up the great work and much success.
Thank you.
It's Laser 101 Station with the attitude. We got birthdays coming up next.